Hi, folks. Welcome to the Art of Confident Driving. I'm really excited about today's episode. So, on Friday, the 7th of November, I attended the conference for the ADTA, which is the Australian Driver Trainers Association. And it was amazing how much information I got while I was there. And one of the most interesting talks I had was from Amanda Stevens, who's from the Accident Research Centre at Monash University. Now, she presented a fascinating talk about many issues to do with crash statistics. And I found it the most enlightening part of the presentation was how the aggressive driving impacted those statistics. Yeah, aggressive driving, we've all seen it. We've probably been victims, so I really want to get stuck into that. So I am absolutely thrilled to have Amanda here with us today to shine a light on what we as drivers can do to reduce our crash risk. Please, everybody, welcome Amanda. Hi, Amanda.
Hey Liz, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I was thrilled to be able to present at the ADTA conference, and I'm thrilled to be able to keep talking about aggressive driving with you. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. It's just so prevalent out there, though, isn't it? I mean, gee whiz, I don't know when that switch happened, maybe around COVID, where, we're all reasonably polite. There were a few aggressives before COVID, but it seems to me that since COVID, it's just, every man for himself, quite literally.
It's definitely something that's becoming more common, but we often don't know whether it is that aggressive driving is becoming more common or we're just talking about it more. Particularly with dash cam footage. Years ago, we never had the dash cam footage. People weren't talking so much, but now it's a part of the conversation, which is shocking because we're hearing about it. But I think it's good because we're also talking about it and acknowledging that it happens.
Yes. So, what is the trigger, I guess, to make people get behind the wheel and then drive that aggressively? Would they act that way, if you met them in person?
It's a really good question. And I would say for most people, when they become aggressive on the road, it doesn't mean that they're aggressive people in life. There are some people out there who tend to be a little bit more aggressive across anything that they're doing. But for most of us, it's a combination of a lot of things. Most drivers, when they go out and they get frustrated or they get angry, on most occasions, they won't react aggressively. But there are days when everything lines up and it's
Mhm.
just that final straw, and you find yourself reacting to something that you wouldn't normally react to. So I often say it's not one thing. We can have triggers that means that we might be more inclined to be angry over it and become aggressive over. But for most of us, it's a combination of things that can often happen before we get in the car as well, not just when we're in the car.
Yeah, so it said, I think I remember something about in your talk where it can be, what mood you're in, what physical condition you're in. The tiredness factor, of course, is always a big one. There were a few other things that have just popped out of my head. But there was a lot together that can come together to make us more aggressive or certainly more fragile, and therefore we might turn aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I often say that as well. Like we don't leave our stresses or how we're feeling or anything that's just happened. We don't leave that at the car door when we get in the car. So whatever's going in our lives, that comes in the car with us. So it's like a silent passenger that sits next to us. So if we're tired or we're angry or we're frustrated or we're going somewhere that we're a little bit unsure about. We might be a bit worried about a meeting that we've got or a sick relative that we've got to visit or whatever's happening at the end of our drive, whatever happened before the drive starts. All of those things are in our head and they're going to shape our tolerance to what happens while we drive as well. So we often think we get into the car and we get back to this state of normal calm, but we don't. Whatever's going on travels with us and it shapes how we are at that particular time.
You're right, 100%. It does make a big impact. And I have so many anxious students coming to me at the moment. I don't know whether it's the generation or it's just they're more prevalent now. But when I get them in my car, I say to them, guys, this is a safe space. I want you to disassociate yourself from whatever dramas you've got outside the car. And when you get behind the wheel, this is your happy place. This is a place where you're safe. You don't need to worry about whatever's going on outside the car. You just focus on the job of driving. And the look they get on their face, they're kind of like, oh, that's a bit of a freedom for me. It's I don't have to think about, what's happening at school or work or whatever. I guess, is there a way we could get more drivers to think like that? Because I've learnt to do that myself, where no matter what's going on in my life, no matter how dreadful or bad or, whatever's going on, the moment I sit behind the wheel, that's it. I'm just focusing on the job of driving. I don't need to focus on anything else.
I've got a big smile on my face when you
Yes.
said that as well because I really love that idea and just making driving the task. And it's not sort of something that happens while everything else in life is going on. It's actually the task at hand and you're giving yourself permission to switch off from everything else and focus on the task. And I think particularly situations that we know can lead to aggression, particularly for younger drivers. One of them is if you're running late or other people are being aggressive towards you. And if you're able to perhaps maintain that focus on the task, I'm running late. What can I practically do to tell someone I'm going to be late? Then I can focus on the task.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a beautiful, I love that idea of protecting that space in your vehicle and not letting that quiet passenger next to you
Yeah.
be in your ear and shape how you drive.
Yeah. But I think you're dead right. That quiet passenger is with so, so many drivers because, when we're teaching them, we don't give them the permission to say, leave it all out the door. It kind of comes with us. And some people, when they're in a quiet area, they'll even think more about whatever the problem is.
Absolutely. And we've worked with workplaces as well. And a lot of the times when we have drivers on the road, we hear stories of them going, oh, they're on the road, so I can give them a call, because they're not doing anything, they're just driving. So it's shifting that task to it's the task.
Yeah.
Driving is the task and that focus of protecting that space. I think that'd be really powerful for the people learning, definitely.
Absolutely. I was behind another driver today in a lovely, beautiful sports car going 15 under the speed limit. I'm like, dude, what? And I realized as I passed him, he's on the phone having a big in-depth conversation. So, again, it doesn't matter how good of a driver you are. Having a conversation is going to take away your concentration from, again, the job of driving.
Absolutely. And driving is arguably for many people one of the most safety critical tasks they're going to do in that day. So, if anything, it should get special attention. This is what we're doing right at the moment. We're driving. Everything else can wait until we finish this task and we finish this task safely.
100%. So, yeah, that's another thing I say, let's focus on the job of driving. Let's not have the big in-depth conversations with the passengers. That can wait for a coffee shop. Drive to the coffee shop and then have the chat. Just like you, I do hear of a lot of people saying, they have big conversations with their kids or with their whoever it is in the car. And I'm like, okay, well, they're probably the ones who are going through a yellow light or not spotting the pedestrian. So again, I guess it's our job as drivers to take on that responsibility and say, look, my first priority has got to be driving. It can't be the conversation.
We did a study, Liz, years ago when I worked in Edinburgh, and I did a study with a colleague using a driving simulator. And we had couples in our simulator, and we got them to write down, they had 10 things that they have heated conversations about. So, not big things you'd argue
Mm.
about, but things like, you don't put the dish rag away, or, we all have them,
Yes.
those little bones of contention that
Yeah.
they're not deal breakers, but you can really quite fired up over them. We actually simulated that in a driving task. So we had one person driving and we had the other person in there and we said, all right, talk about the dishcloth situation that you have.
Yeah.
And we found that, as you would expect, that the driving of the other person was seriously affected when they're having these conversations. And also because they kept diverting their eyes away from the task. So we had eye trackers and you could see the driver kept looking and holding the gaze more on the person next to them because the conversation was engaging that person and they were really getting into that conversation. And that was more so than if we just got them to talk about a random topic that they weren't interested in. So it's easy to shift focus as well, sometimes when those conversations have real meaning to you.
Absolutely. So again, stay focused on the job of driving. I guess that's the thing that a lot of people aren't as aware of these days. I mean, growing up, I actually was in a car without seatbelts in the back seat. That admittedly it was an older car and I was very, very young. So the safety wasn't involved in vehicles back then as it is now. And I think maybe that's another part of the issue is we're all quite complacent. We're like, oh, the car will save me. But will it? Really?
Definitely, you're absolutely right, Liz. But at the moment, the car needs the driver to stay focused before it can help us in any way.
Exactly right. And I guess that leads me into my next question. How much of an impact do these distracted drivers who therefore will crash make, the entire society pay for these mistakes? Because all of us, my insurance premium has gone up and I haven't claimed in, I don't know how many, 20 something years. So it affects all of us when people don't take the job seriously enough of driving and then end up doing crashes, whether they're big or little crashes.
No, absolutely. And it can have a ripple effect throughout the network as well. Because if you think about it, most people I speak to will have their own story about when someone's been aggressive to them. Sometimes people will tell me a story and it's happened a few years ago, but it was so meaningful, it's still there and they're still telling the story. And that shapes how they drive and how they respond to other people as well.
Mm.
But not only anger and aggression towards you can lead to you changing your driving, it can also lead, you probably notice this with your students, it can also lead to a little bit more anxiety about
Mhm.
driving.
Yep.
And that can also have knock on effects then when people become anxious about driving. And I don't know if that's your experience, Liz. Do you find that as well?
Oh, 100%. The amount of students I have who have either been road raged or they're witness road rage to the parent or the friend, and they get in my car and they're like, I'm so scared to learn to drive because of the other drivers. And it's a big issue these days. 28 years ago when I started, there was a little bit of it, but certainly nothing compared to now. The anxiety levels really are higher, and it's because of other motorists.
Yeah, and when we sort of talk to, we have the same in research, we find the same thing, Liz. When we talk to young drivers, particularly, or drivers who've become anxious while learning, it's aggression from other drivers, particularly being tailgated.
Mm.
That's one of the key situations that people find really anxiety provoking and will then change their driving to try to avoid roads that they think that might happen on, or
Yeah.
times of the day when they feel that might happen. And some people actually choose to not drive because of that as well. That knock-on effect of aggression, it goes far down the chain, but it can have really serious effects for people.
Amanda, you are dead right, because I've had conversations with certainly mothers of my anxious students who they themselves won't go on the big M1 because of, times where they've been involved in those road rage situations. You've put it beautifully there. Thank you, Miss Amanda. That's
Oh,
amazing.
no, that's I could talk about this all day, Liz, because that is that relationship between the aggression and anxiety and anger. It's all intertwined. So it's fascinating.
It is, you're right. So how could your average so let's say I know of a certain driver, we won't name names. I know of a certain driver who gets behind the wheel and their set button is automatically aggressive. Is there a way or a hint or some tools that we could give them to say, "Dude, let's just tone it down a bit"?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of my favorite topics is what can we do about it? And I think for anyone who was finding that they were getting a little angry and a little aggressive on the roads, or whose partner might be getting a little angry or a little aggressive, I think the first step is to really unpack, when is this happening and what are the specific circumstances that are leading to this? Is it when somebody's tailgating me? That seems to be the thing that gets me angry and aggressive. Or is it if I'm driving in peak hour traffic, or if I'm in a rush? Is it something that happens before you get in the car? Is it something that happens while you're driving? And to really sort of understand what your specific triggers are, for want of a better word, for that anger and aggression. And then once you've got that, really think about, well, what strategies can I develop around that? So if you're always feeling angry and frustrated during peak hour traffic, or when you're trying to get home from work, is there a way that you can leave later to avoid the traffic, or leave earlier? Is there a practical way that you can deal with it if that works for you? For a lot of people, I find having a mental shift can help. So finding the comedy in the situation.
Yeah.
One of the really popular strategies for people that we work with. So we have a program to help people when they get angry and aggressive on the road, and we get people to develop their strategies in this. And one of the strategies that comes up a lot is this 5 by 5 by 5 strategy, which is to think, is this going to matter in 5 minutes or in 5 hours or 5 days? And if it's not going to, then don't stress about it now. And that can be really helpful for people, but it's finding what's practical for you. If breathing is your thing, breathing can help, but maybe it's not. Maybe you're going to get a bit annoyed. if somebody tells you to breathe.
Yeah. Amanda,
So
I
it's
love that 555. Yeah, I remember you saying it on the presentation. It was really clever because I think that's the point. When we get behind the wheel, we all think that we've got to rush to get to wherever we're going. As I say to my students, because they all get in the car, it doesn't matter, how many hours they've done. They'll get in the car and the first thing they want to do is just take off. And I'm like, well, guys, you don't know my car. How about we check out all the controls? But they all get into the same mentality of rushing. And when I say to them, "How about we not rush?" And they all look at me like, quite frankly, I'm on drugs. Uh, and it's because it's ingrained in our system where because we've watched our parents. I mean, how often do our parents just do a nice Sunday drive, a relaxed drive? No, they're always rushing to work or to the school sport or whatever it is. It's never just a relaxed, happy drive. It's always some sort of emotional, I've got to, do this attitude. But I love the 555 because it brings it back to, come on, will it matter? If this guy's going 10K under the speed limit for a whole 2 kilometers, yeah, that's going to inconvenience me for what, 20 seconds? Is 20 seconds out of my day that bad? That's what I point out to them, and they look at me and they're like, "Oh, now I get it."
And it comes back to what you were saying earlier, Liz, with that just protecting the drive.
Yeah,
So the drive is the task right now, and let's protect it and let's make it enjoyable.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's my keynote to everything is relax and enjoy the drive. I mean, gee whiz, what happened to us enjoying driving? I think it's now just as everybody says, "I just gotta do it, it's a chore." It should be an enjoyable task, it shouldn't be like having to do the washing up, and yes, there are those of you out there who enjoy doing washing up, more power to you. I don't mind on occasion, but there is a dishwasher. Uh, sorry, my jokes are pretty bad, as most of my audience knows. But yeah, it's, just the extra 20 seconds out of our day, it's 30 seconds, 1 minute. It's not a big deal, is it really, when you think of it in that context?
no, exactly. And we do also know that, just as I was saying, whatever's going on in your life before you get in the car will travel with you in the car. But the same happens when you get there. So if you have a really stressful drive and you sort of get yourself really frustrated or angry or anxious, that doesn't stay in the car. So then when you get out, wherever you're going next, you'll carry that and you'll have that mood with you as well. So and maybe some people won't point it out, but I know for me, if I'm going home and I walk in the door and I'm a little grumpy, oh, they're sure gonna tell me. So
Yeah, my daughter asked me, "Have you had your coffee today, mum?" So,
exactly.
yeah, it's like, yeah. So, no, you made a good point, you don't wanna walk in your own home, which is, again, one of your safe spaces, you don't wanna walk in there grumpy and taking it out on the family. So, again, I think that attitude of get behind the wheel with a healthy attitude, not a let's get the job done aggressively attitude. It's the way to go.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned earlier as well, Liz, like there's a very real crash risk when you are in those altered moods as well. So there's a really nice study that I talked about in the conference, which actually was able to have a look at the odds of crash when people were either distracted or they were visibly angry or they were visibly tired. And just looking at people who were visibly angry when driving, they're able to say that their crash risk increased tenfold. So just when they deviated from being calm, and I mean, they must have been pretty angry to look visibly angry,
Yeah.
but it puts you at higher risk as well.
I mean, that's an incredible statistic just on its own.
Absolutely. And if we think about, I think if you're interacting with the phone, this study was showing it's between 2 to 12 times the risk of crash. So it's the same as distractions with phones.
Mm. And the phones are a big distraction, but it's even worse now when people are tapping on them instead of just using it as a phone. And then the person next to them will get aggressive because they're like, "Why are you on the phone?" Not,
Well, it is actually true that a source of anger can be when you see other people doing illegal things in
Yeah,
the car, and that's probably one of the most prevalent things that people are seeing at the moment is people being on their phones.
I agree.
So
I agree. I get cranky when I see everybody else do the wrong thing. I'm like, "Dude, I'm doing it." But that's the thing. I think is it that, I'm special, I'm different attitude that's causing this drama, do you think?
essentially, it's sort of natural to become angry over things. It's a natural response, and I think particularly with driving because it's a safety critical event.
Mm,
So if something goes wrong, we can get hurt. and the people in our car can get hurt. So often when other drivers are behaving in a way that might put us in threat, it's natural for us to become angry. So I think I'd always say in certain cases, anger is natural, but it's what you do next that's really important. It's recognizing that, yep, no, I've got every right to get angry because, if I didn't brake, something would have happened then, and I've got my family in the car. It's absolutely right to get angry, but it's that next step. What do you do with that? And I think it's hard, especially because when we are angry, we make different decisions. So it's trying to pull yourself back from that anger and then think about what happens next. Now I want to keep being safe and really focusing on that. So I think it's easier to manage the step once you're angry than to stop yourself getting angry because can be a natural response.
That is such a good point, Amanda. It's okay, allow ourselves to get angry because that guy did cut us off and we did have to go on the brakes. But now do I need to escalate it?
Exactly.
I need to be safe. There's been times where I've done something stupid because I've gotten angry.
Yep. And just by our nature,
Yeah.
when we get angry, we naturally tend to overestimate how much control we have in the situation. And we also tend to underestimate how much risk we see in the situation. And this is evolution.
Yeah,
Like we're programmed to do this
right.
because back in the day when we were angry and we were getting ready for a fight, we need to think we've got control and we need to underestimate the risk in so it changes our judgment. So it's often not that we think I'm going to act in a more risky way.
Yeah.
It's just that we think, no, I've got enough control and I'll be able to deal with this. So it changes how we actually evaluate as well.
So there's a
So
there's a bit of ego involved as well.
there is,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. But it can be natural response. It's just working through that and then stepping it back, as you say, because you never know who that other person is as well. So
That's
you need
right.
to be really careful of that.
100%. This could be, an overseas license holder who's going onto that road for the first time. It could be somebody who's emotionally hurting right now and they're not focusing again on the job of driving. We're not responsible for how those other people are, thinking. We can't change the way they're thinking. Therefore, we can't change the way they're doing things. So make the choice of don't get that upset because it's out of our control anyway. We can only control what we can do.
Absolutely. I work a lot with the National Road Safety Partnership Program, and they offer a lot of resources and tools for workplaces, particularly to help the drivers on the road. And we did a campaign on anger and aggressive driving, and they had these amazing interns who came up with a slogan that said, in every vehicle is another person. And it was just a really simple idea that we depersonalize it's another vehicle, but actually it's not. It's a person. And who is that person? That what if that person was your mum or your sister or your boss? Like, it's not a vehicle, it's a person. I think we forget that sometimes when we're on the road too.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna have a quick whinge to the side here, guys. If you can't see into the driver's seat, in other words, your windows are too dark, how can we associate ourselves as another driver to you if I can't see you? So please, no overly dark tinted windows. It's not good for safety. See, I had to put my oh,
So I've got no stats on that.
no, I would like there you go. So that's something you could look at because I'm seeing a lot of it. But anyway, yeah. One of the most amazing stats I saw was 94% of crashes are due to human error.
Absolutely, you're right, and that's a stat from America. I think it was from a motor vehicle crash survey as well. So it's really interesting because we know that anger and aggression and anxiety and emotions actually influence how we are and lead to higher error. So if we can find ways to stay calm, we can also find ways to reduce error and to reduce our risk of being involved in crash.
And that's a big thing. We all think, "Oh, no, we're gonna be fine," but errors happen. And as you're pointing out, it's our emotional state that will either increase or decrease our risk of those errors, which could end up of course, in a crash.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's also a cycle. So if you find that something happens and you then sort of have a near miss because of it, then you're going to feel differently next time you're in that situation as well. And I think that's what happens with aggressive driving. So sometimes for people, if they're aggressive to others and that person moves out of the way or they sort of achieves what they want, that feeds into their decision to do it again next time. So just as we were saying, life gets in the car with you and then the car, what happens in the car gets out the other door, the other side. It's the same. Every experience on the road feeds into how we are the next
Yeah.
time on the road as well.
100%. It really is very fascinating to me because, I see what happens on the roads every day. And the aggressive drivers, yeah, they're the ones weaving in and out of traffic, and then we're still at the same set of lights and, 2 minutes away. But, for them to do that sort of thing is not making anybody else's life happier. And how is it making their life happier? That's my next question is, what are they getting out of it by acting that way?
It can depend. So I think quite often it's to get out of the situation. So if there's a situation of frustration, so I hear a lot people who do tend to get a little bit angry or aggressive. It can often be in freeway or road situations when you've got vehicles, on all lanes and there's the fast quote unquote lane and there's someone traveling in that's not going to the speed that that person thinks they should be going at.
Mm.
And so often I think that's when people can get quite aggressive. And when people move out of the way, which I would recommend to do if that is happening, then that can be reinforcing as well. So sometimes Liz, they are actually, getting a result that they want
Getting what they want, yeah,
as well.
by being a bully. Come on, let's be fair, guys. That's what tailgating is. You're being a bully. Now, having said that, and I've spoken about it on a few other podcasts, there are some people out there who ask for that trouble. If you are in the right lane and you're doing under the speed limit, and I mean well under the speed limit, well, yeah, you're going to be asking for that sort of aggression because people don't want to be, slow in the fast lane. So be aware of your surroundings and know what your speed limit is. And if you're unable to do close to it, well, you might want to get a bit more training or a bit more practice and a bit more confidence to be able to do the speed limit on that road. But yeah, certainly, guys, remember one of the most important road rules in Australia keep left. Yeah, it's that simple, fellas.
So what do you see a lot of, Liz, in terms of aggression on the roads?
I used to get a lot of tailgating maybe before 10 years ago.
Okay.
I used to get a lot of it. Well, I've always had a roof sign, so people know that my car is a learner car. And then I got a very attractive Honda Civic sports car and put wraps around her, so she's really obvious. So I've got the roof sign on top, I've got the signage all the way around the car, and I think she's far too pretty for people to tailgate. So so A, she's, she's too nice, but B, I also don't allow my students to do too much under the speed limit. If they're not capable of being close to the speed limit, well, they shouldn't be on that road. I'll keep them in the back streets till they're confident enough. So I personally and my students, we don't get tailgated too often, but I see it everywhere else. And again, it's why are those people tailgating? And I'm looking at the speed they're doing. So half of the time, the people are doing the speed limit, and there's just an aggressive, I'm running late. It's my choice to run late. So I'm going to give you a hard time attitude. I'm also seeing one of the biggest problems I have is when people do make a mistake. And of course, we're all going to make mistakes. We're human. Driving is a complex thing. So we will make mistakes, but people won't cop it when they make a mistake. If I have to toot somebody, it's for a reason. It's not just I'm having a good time with the horn. It's you have done something that has caused us to have to, do a quick maneuver to stop a crash. And so when I toot, because the student won't, so I'll reach across and toot. Because again, it's to avoid a crash.
Yeah.
Inevitably, I'll
Yeah.
get, as my daughter calls it, the rude finger back. They won't
Okay. Yeah.
stop it, they won't apologize. I've had maybe 1 in 50 people, when they've done the wrong thing, actually put the hand up, wave, and say sorry. So, they're the sort of aggressive things that don't help general driving, do they? They're just dragging everybody down and making the whole thing not pleasurable.
I really like that point too, because I think we've lost the wave. I know when many moons ago, when I was learning to drive, you do the wave. You do the thank you wave, you do the sorry wave.
Yeah.
I feel like we've lost that. I don't see the wave very much
No.
anymore either. I don't know if that's your experience.
It is absolutely. And it's a sorrowful moment because we are all human. We're all going to make mistakes. And, to forgive is divine. So, how about if we, do make a mistake, A, cop it, accept, okay, I did the wrong thing. And B, put that hand up to say, sorry, yeah, I cut you off. I didn't mean to. And then the person, so it happened to me the other day and I actually got a wave and my husband and I were like, oh, whoa, wow, wow, wow. We got a sorry wave? Wow. And I actually felt quite good and I calmed down instantly because they acknowledged they did the wrong thing. And I think, again, as you say, if we can de-escalate the anger, and that's exactly what happened when that person said sorry. So yes, please bring back the sorry wave.
I agree. I agree.
We might hashtag that or something. Not that I'm good at all that stuff, but I'll give it a red hot shot. Uh, But actually, I do. I've started to do it a lot more, even though technically it's illegal to put your hand out the window for no reason. But when I'm joining the motorway, and again, I indicate early. I've talked about this, guys. Most of you know who've listened to previous episodes. Indicate early. Look for your nice gap. But I will still, if somebody's gone to the trouble of slowing down a little bit for me to help me, I'll put my hand out the window and give them a wave, and then they'll wave back. And that's it. Hello, human connection. We're all happy behind the wheel. It's not that hard. Let's be human again. Let's not just be boxes of metal. Let's be the humans that are inside these boxes of metal that go very fast and can hurt people. And be kind to one another and say, all right, buddy, I'll let you in, even though you didn't indicate, you know.
It's a great point. In every vehicle is another person.
Yeah,
It comes back to that. And I know I felt quite good too at times when someone will let me in.
yeah,
When you're indicating to get in and
yeah.
someone will let you in and look at you and you exchange a smile and yeah, and you head off feeling, yeah, great. so, so it does make a difference.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should focus more on those good times too. Like
I think so. I think so. Because humans, we don't really want to be angry with each other all the time. It doesn't come off well. We all get cortisol, which is not good for anybody. So, if we can get those happy emotions going, it'd work a lot better. And I think we'd all get home a lot happier, wouldn't
absolutely. And then our family wouldn't have to tell us we were grumpy.
we? Get your coffee, Mum. Oh, have a chamomile tea. Thank you, darling. Try and calm down because I've been in traffic. No, I want to come home and say, yeah, yeah, I had a pretty good drive home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all do, don't we, really?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We do. We do.
Yeah. Look, Miss Amanda, I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to have you on our show. We've learnt a lot, and I'm really hoping that you'll come back and talk about something else again.
No, absolutely. I'd love to. It's been a lot of fun.
It has. It has. Yeah. Well, driving should be fun. Learning to drive should be fun. And driver education, yeah, it shouldn't be boring sitting in a classroom. It should be fun. We want to educate, not bore. So you want to have a good time doing stuff. Yeah, see, she's laughing. I know, my mum jokes. I really, yeah.
No, it's been great.
It has been fun. It has been fun. We've had a good giggle. So thank you so much, Miss Amanda. We really do appreciate it. And we so look forward to having you back on. We'll have to come up with another topic next time, or maybe even just do a part two because we've talked so much.
Do you know, I think a part two would be fantastic. There's
Okay.
lots more to say, I'd say.
Yeah. Yay. You're on. You're on.
Awesome.
Absolutely. All right, friends. Thank you very much, Miss Amanda. And we'll see you out on a happy drive.
Absolutely.
And my full driving lessons are available on Apple Podcasts and the artofconfidentdriving.com website, where you'll get access to instructional videos. Remember to relax and enjoy the drive. See you next time.